Le sommet international de l'éducation du futur réunit une soixantaine de conférenciers du monde entier. Des pionniers et des innovateurs issus du monde de l'éducation, bien évidemment, mais également des êtres inspirants, issus des chemins de sagesse ou des chemins d'apprentissage et de créativité dans différents domaines. Les arts, les sciences, l'économie, le lien avec la nature, le sport, etc. Des expériences et des chemins de vie qui sont un formidable enrichissement pour le monde de l'éducation. Le professionnalisme des traductions, en simultané, et l'incroyable richesse de toutes ces conférences offrent un horizon de point de vue vaste et varié, très complet, qui en font au final une véritable formation professionnelle pour les enseignants, les éducateurs et tous les professionnels de l'éducation, mais également une formation à la parentalité consciente et une formation individuelle à la vie consciente. Face à toute cette richesse et aux divers retours, nous avons décidé d'offrir toutes ces conférences à tous, partout dans le monde, en français et en anglais, quelquefois en allemand et en espagnol. Découvrez la vision d'acteurs audacieux et influents du changement, vers un monde éthique, solidaire, généreux et profondément respectueux de tous, des cultures, des peuples, des règnes et de la planète. Un incroyable panel de conférences, couvrant toutes les dimensions de l'éducation, pour un futur ayant du sens, une humanité épanouie et une terre qui respire. Une chose est sûre, votre vie, et à travers vous, celle des enfants, ne sera plus la même après avoir écouté toutes ces conférences. Pour avancer, nous avons besoin de vous, nous avons besoin de votre générosité solidaire. L'organisation du sommet et l'édition des conférences ont nécessité des milliers d'heures de travail et nécessitent encore beaucoup de temps et d'investissement. Nous faisons appel aux dons libres et spontanés pour compléter le financement du sommet et, si possible, continuer à l'enrichir de nouvelles conférences. Votre soutien est vraiment précieux et vital pour aller jusqu'au bout de cette aventure extraordinaire. Merci.
Vicki,
right.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome, Vicki.
I'm very happy to have Vicki with us because we are working together since many months.
Yes.
Well, I don't see you. Okay, you are here.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing from you because I've seen that you've created the College of Thought and you have an amazing work teaching mental clarity to thousands of students throughout Australia, which is amazing to me. So, well, I will let you explain all this to us and welcome and thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I have a little bit of a presentation that I'll bring up in a moment, but I wanted to start by explaining that tonight what I was going to do is a bit of a journey to show how maybe it's my education that you'll see, but in my education you'll be able to understand how that's been affecting children. So when my children were young, I saw this need for teaching meditation to young children, really just giving them that connection back to themselves and letting them hold their truth. So I developed some beautiful workshops to teach little children some simple techniques, and that then moved on to working in schools.
J'ai également travaillé dans des écoles.
When I work in schools, it's not meditation. School children don't want to do meditation. It's too boring, it's too hard, it's too intense, and they don't understand it. So we don't call it that, and I didn't call it mindfulness because I don't think we need a full mind. I think we need a calm mind or a clear mind. So clear-minded for life is this beautiful term that we use to explain how children, through simple child-oriented breathing techniques, like really simple, beautiful techniques in every school, and all children from 4 years of age to 14, sometimes up to 16, could learn these techniques and remember them. And I only ever got to go into the school for 15 minutes in one classroom because the curriculum in Australia is very full, as in many other countries. So this is low priority. It's a big priority in our mental health, but a low priority in the curriculum. So I was given a window of 15 minutes in one classroom once a week. So it's not very long. What had to happen then is that the engagement with the children had to be very high and very easy to retain. So we repeated this class for 6 weeks in some schools, but not in all. Some I could only go to once a term. So once every 3 months, I could visit these children. A couple of things in that space. I would hold that space in such presence and love for the children, even the naughty ones, even the ones that are always in trouble. It was never a problem for me because when I'm with them, I'm engaging that part of them that is quiet and finally gets peace. And some schools are quite disadvantaged. Family lives are challenging, social lives are challenging. But when you see peace on a child's face in that moment, it's divine. And little children would go away and come back and say to their teacher, I slept last night for the first time because of some of the things that they had learned. These anecdotal responses that I got really showed the value in the techniques. And we would then leave little printout sheets for the school teachers and they would practice them when I wasn't there or the other Clear Minded for Life teachers weren't in the classroom. It really is so important for these things to be offered to children. And my premise is that it's all children. In society, a sort of a spiritually minded parent or a meditative minded parent will naturally attract that sort of thing to their children. They'll go to the yoga classes or they'll go to places that are engaged in nature. But by putting the Clear Minded for Life into primary schools, mainstream education, a lot of Catholic schools and a number of public schools in our system, it meant that the children that don't get exposed to that got given that gift. And so it was all children, and all children irrespective of background. Then we start to understand that all children are a gift to life, of course, and a gift to themselves. And in the classroom, I would always teach about uniqueness just by the simple fact of looking at their fingerprint and understanding that their breath was unique to them and pointing to themselves as that unique person. And always in the process, it was to allow the child to have their own thoughts. So no guided meditations, no pictures for them to form that were coming out of my mouth. They were things like we would go into stillness just by listening to a Tibetan singing bowl and getting presence of mind, do some breathing to get the brain calm. And then in that stillness, I'd say something like, think about something that makes you smile and just concentrate on that. So we develop affirming neural pathways. We teach focus and concentration, and it's child-led because they're thinking about what they want to. And sometimes it's food and chocolate, or sometimes it's the bunny rabbit, or sometimes you can just tell from the child It's wild. It's incredible. They've got the latest invention of some sort in their mind, and they're so excited. I never ask them what they're thinking. Sometimes they'll tell me. I never ask them because there's no room for influence in that space. It's precious to them. It's their dream. Once we went into this a bit longer, it started to become apparent that dreaming or creative thinking was lacking, especially as children got a bit older. Once they hit about 10, that thought process was not there the way it was when they were younger. So already the decline into structured education was losing momentum of the creative mind, the dreaming mind, I call it, the one that's the big mind. And it was becoming coerced into its little battalions of thought. So I'd introduce the dreamer, and we do it through body relaxation, because as children got a bit older, they become very body aware of their peers and everything matters. So we just lay down and we go quiet and we go still and we do just simple body relaxation. And then the dreamer starts. And instead of thinking, I would suggest to them, what's your dream? And to consciously dream, as if they're going to sleep, but dreams are limitless and improbable and impossible. So the dreamer, which is that beautiful mind that has freedom, could start to connect in a conscious way. Again, mainstream public education or Catholic education, very normal life, if I want to put it that way. But teaching these children these skills so that they could then go to sleep at night in a class of 30 children, and I would see every 12 classes in one day. So a full day, 30 children per class, 90% put their hand up when I ask them if they have trouble sleeping at night. That's a really high proportion. If I ask them if they get a pain in their tummy, because we do a breath that's for relaxing our tummy, the same proportion. This sort of thing is just phenomenal. From kindergarten to the end of primary school, these children are like, yeah, I often have a pain in my tummy. Food, diet, stress, anxiety, you could put it all together. But what Clear-Minded for Life was about is, and here's some simple ways that you, empowered child, can help yourself. So I'm just going to move into a little bit of a screen share, just a couple of slides to show you these beautiful pictures. And then I'm going to teach you 3 or 4 simple techniques that we do in Clear-Minded for Life, because my greatest gift would be that you learn these simple techniques and then share them with any child that you know, because the retention is enormous. That's the main thing I found, is they're so simple and child-oriented that the child easily can remember them, and they're effective. And then if we think about the collective consciousness that I've built up over the 10 years and the thousands of children myself and the other Clear-Minded for Life teachers have taught, we have a network already in place that means that there's momentum. So as you would teach a child some of these techniques, that's already sitting in the reality to be picked up, if you understand. So I'll just show you this beautiful couple of little things. So this is my introduction screen, because I'm going to step you through a few things, but the first one is Clear-Minded for Life. That's where we are right now. This beautiful logo that we have designed. and a couple of pictures. So that's me in a classroom teaching something we call a rainbow breath, which we always close with. And it's the simplest thing. You rub your hands together. If you want to be interactive, I love interactive presentations. So do it, whether you can see the screen or anyone else. So you rub your hands together, and then you take a huge stretch up above your head. So right up high, and you look up. And as you look up, you imagine that you're looking at a rainbow of colours. And then you paint that glorious rainbow all the way around you. And if you do that with presence, you can feel everyone that's painting that rainbow right now. And you can feel that connection. And you imagine then in a classroom of 30 children, little 10-year-olds, all making that rainbow in that moment and holding presence. And then sometimes we'd spread it out so it would cover the classroom or the playground, things like that, so that they're stretching mind and realizing that their energetic field is affecting those around them, touching them with love and kindness, touching them with that beauty. So that's just one of those beautiful examples. Another one I'd like to show you is this thing called the pause breath, which is also simple technique. So again, rub your hands together and then bring them apart. You know, like the pause button on the play machine, like we all have that on our screen right now. Put it into a pause, but it's in front of you, and you look at the space between your hands. So you're literally looking at a pause. Now, if you've done meditation, this is going to be so simple, but remember, it's for children who haven't. So they pause. And all I would say to them is just look at the space between your hands. And in that moment, everything is suspended in the now. And as we stare at that space between our hands, it all goes quiet and still. And then I'd ask the children to move their hands very slowly towards each other, which we can do. And of course, then they start to sense energy. And their hands tingle or do kind of funny things, a magnet or a reverse magnet. But I don't explain what that is. I just allow their intuition to experience something wonderful. And by the time we've done that, these children are present in the middle of a school day for 15 minutes. One of the other very simple breathing techniques that I also love is connected to DNA in its magnificence, but it's called a ribbon breath. So all we do is we take an imaginary ribbon and we bring it down to the base of our belly button, and then as we breathe in, we draw it up. So we're breathing it up through the vagus nerve, and then we breathe out and we create a ribbon that moves right to left, so we're crossing the hemisphere of the brain. And we're also drawing for ourselves a DNA, connecting back to our innate wisdom. So these children are learning techniques. I don't explain all of that detail. I just show them the technique, but it has all the cues of truth in behind it for them to explore when it's the right time. And there are a number of children that will pick it straight away, and they'll just say things like, oh, that looks like DNA, but not all of them. So I've got one more fun one, which is what I always close my classes with. And it's called Today is Great. So we've done all our breathing, we've come into this calm space, we've created our own thought, our own mind reality, we've held it in a focused state of mind, totally present. Their pathways are being activated. And then we close with this pose with your arms up in a big V, and I say it's like you've won the race. So let's do that. Just bring your arms up like you've won the race for a moment. And there's one position in winning the race. They're not low, they're not too high, they're just there. And when you get that position, it's so glorious. And then you just say, today is great. And so I say to these children, wake up in the morning, bring your arms up and get out of bed and say, today is great. So we've got these simple but so effective ways to give children a tool. I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment. That's a snapshot of Clear Minded for Life, and I've been doing it for 10 years, and I love it like I can't explain, because I get to see the joy in children's faces. And I've run large groups with high school children, which is a little bit more challenging, but still just as effective. And I just modify the way I talk about it. So if you find any interest in these, they're just so simple, and I just want it to be shared. So that's Clear Minded for Life in a really small snapshot. After I've done that for a long time with my colleague Dakota, who's worked with me through all of this, we started to understand that there was more depth that we needed to bring to the children. So through a lot of work in consciousness and a lot of deep learning, she's gone to build an online program called the School of New Thought. So remember I said the dreamer was asleep. It's like their consciousness in the classroom was in this dulled down state. So we start the School of New Thought, which is stimulating the mind to create new pathways of thinking. And if we determine that our future as humans really needs brilliant new thought, it needs such innovative thinking for us to get out of these structures and systems that are manifesting our reality. And the new thought is what will catapult us forward. So the School of New Thought, it's all online at the moment, as just about everything has to be. Fortunately, let's put it in those terms, because then it means it can be accessed by anybody around the world. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of a moment on my share screen again. This is a beautiful logo, which is the symbol of truth, love, freedom, and joy. So if you embody truth, love, freedom, and joy, that's a pretty wondrous place to start life. This is an indication of the way that the information's been put into a learning system online. It's all free at the moment because that's the way we work. Love and sharing. And I really would like to show you one thing where Dakota, that's my lovely friend sitting up in this top corner, and she has put together these presentations which are online, and she's just going to talk for a moment to us.
As we learn more about our amazing human brains, we start to see the power of curiosity, wonder that's innate within, the role of great questions. For instance, what exists at the end of the universe? And if so, what is it? Great questions about what if, and something that you don't know. All of these wonders and curiosities and questions move us further forward away from any old thinking patterned thoughts and start to open doorways into new thought, new adventures, new experiences. As
So, as you can see, that's just a tiny snapshot, and there's a lot of information in the School of New Thought around neural pathways, building great thinking, how the ocular vision is stimulated through the brain. There's information on DNA, the quantum field, nature, the human form. It's extensive program that's been put together, and you just have to listen to our Australian accents joyfully, I hope. So that's in the School of New Thought, and again, all driven through foundational thinking, teaching children about their brain and how it works and how incredible it is. All of us, this incredible brain. You know, if you just put your hands on your brain, you can imagine you've got so many pathways in there that are latent, desiring to be turned on, desiring to be activated. So when we couple that with that presence, breathing, stillness, calm, putting the concept of that brilliant new thought into your mind, we're starting to move forward. So it's a journey tonight. I'm going to keep going, because from here, there's something that has come into my life, which was the touch of creativity. And I truly believe that the creative beings that we are, the beauty in humanity is that we are creators. And education has to support creativity. Not just creativity for functional, productive reasons, or innovative reasons, or technological reasons, but creativity just for the sake of the beauty of it. The great artists, the musicians, the poets and the writers. How much joy do you get, if that's your passion, to be a writer and just write for the love of it, or to be an artist, a musician? So if we don't acknowledge this brilliance in humanity and in children, and that actually is free expression, that is the divine coming forward, asking to be seen, asking to be purposefully observed. And unfortunately, in the majority of our reality, it's not financially supported. So therefore, it's reduced in its meaning. And if we were to think about the future of education being the future of humanity, this part is so important. Creativity, just for the love of it, for the joy of it, and to support that in people, and to cherish it and say, yes, you are so valued because your art is your expression for living. And that's what you came with, your unique gift to this world. So, in my journey, as I'm saying it, this led me to a beautiful organization called the Voice of Gaia. And the Voice of Gaia, if you know Gaia being Mother Earth, is not just music and art and creativity, but it's in honoring of our extraordinary planet. Honoring the love of life here. And the music is a collection of artists from all around the world who are touching that place where Gaia, or Mother Earth, is so resonant in us. So the aim of the Voice of Gaia, if that's the right term, is to give us a place where music and art come together in the vibration that truly supports the love of our planet. And then when we listen or we look at these pictures, what happens is we're naturally raised to meet the beauty of the life that we're part of. And we take ourselves out of that lower feeling of harshness or suffering or denseness that is commonplace in our lives. Nature is always giving us gifts. Always. And we all know that. I know that, and I know that you know that. So it doesn't take much to get back to nature and touch it. And you just look at the speakers in this event, this summit, there's many of them teaching and speaking of education through nature. Because it's so important. She is our greatest teacher. She is the one that teaches us about the seasons and the seed to the tree or the metamorphosis of the butterfly. So creativity is our friend in the future, and education must always honor that in the individuals where that's what their passion is to be. So I'm going to come back to my little pictures on the screen because they're so beautiful. And we have, of course, the beautiful metamorphosis of the butterfly in nature. And this is the voice of Gaia that I just mentioned. The website address is thevoiceofgaia.org or voiceofgaia.org, so that's easy to remember. Now, for everyone who's here and everyone who is watching this in the future, what I'd ask is that for the next 4.5 minutes, you can just be present with what this short video is. In my house with 3 teenage daughters, 4.5 minutes is too long, often, for their attention. Fortunately or unfortunately, whichever way we want to take that. But this video to me is a gift so worth being present. So if we could pause ourselves, that beautiful pause breath, and just watch what this has been put together. I hope the volume's loud enough. Maybe turn up your volume to hear it. I hope that you enjoyed that as much as I always do. It usually brings tears to my eyes, but I was slightly refrained this time. That's been produced and sung, thank you, Paz, by Amrita, who is the founder of the Voice of Gaia, and one of the artists from the Voice of Gaia, Iman, put the music together and the video production. So if we look at that and we think about the wonder of our planet and the magnificence of all the different people on our planet and all the different ways we get to express, it really gives us a feeling of why education is so important for the future. Because we're so worth it. Humanity is so truly divine and has such infinite capability to innovate, to change, to grow, to learn, to overcome, to be creative, that you can do no other than think about us as magnificent and our beautiful planet simultaneously. So the Voice of Gaia, that touch of creativity and the understanding of nature, when we weave those together, the next part in my little journey, which I'm taking you through tonight, comes to one more slide, hey? Oh, we need to go forward one. So I've spoken about the Voice of Gaia and how music is art, words, the freedom of expression and abundance. That's my little catchphrase for the touch of creativity and what it means to us that they come together. Now, from there, I was led to a beautiful connection with Amrita in the jungle of Colombia in a place called Choiba. And here is a school in nature, not yet present, but coming. There's already a whale sanctuary on this piece of land, and there's another piece of land beside it where what we aim to do is create a school in nature for children, local children, indigenous children, and then children of the world to come. Now, I know this is not a unique concept necessarily, but when you put it in a place that is the most biodiverse place on the planet with more species per square meter of the earth, what you're teaching is the value of diversity and uniqueness, the importance of each individual and their signature imprint that they bring to our planet, and the magnificence of every person in the way that they are offering their truth to life. So Choiba to me is a gift, and it's going to be a very, very special place to be part of. Deep learning, weaving in the things that I've already spoken about, so the breathing, the connection with nature, the creativity, the school of new thought, teaching children these fundamental concepts of their brain and reality and how life is created in such a brilliant and magnificent place. So we continue to understand that education happens in many different ways. And if you look at the work that I've been doing in any way, most of it's in consciousness. So from here, I'm going to take a leap with you to the College of New Thought. Now, if you just stay with me for a little bit longer, the College of New Thought came out of a desire of mine to discover what there would be if everything was known and there was a thought beyond that. And I just meditated on that for a long time. I sat and I thought, if everything was known, what would be beyond that? And because I have a capacity to bring consciousness to this beautiful place, I started to talk about it. And I talked a lot about it, so my friend Dakota kindly records what I say and transcribes it. And then we have this beautiful product of that information called the College of New Thought. Not necessarily for children, hence why there's the School of New Thought to tie these elements together. But what it's about is all of us knowing that inside we have an infinite brain and an infinite mind and a capacity that touches the universe and beyond. And we can bring to ourselves the solution to anything from beyond the known paradigms of what we work within. That means then that our reality that is pliable and movable is no longer bound by its structures of thought that have kept it in its way for so long. Good or bad, it makes no difference. It's just expansion and evolution in action. But taking the raw material of ourselves and each individual knowing that we really have a brilliant mind. And that brilliant mind can do anything if you give it the right tools and the permission. And I really do think it is permission to touch the unknown. So if I wind it right back to children and clear-minded for life, a clear mind is a mind that's open to explore because it's not bound by the barriers of thought that say it's impossible or you can't do that or you have to learn through these structures, and that's the way that we do things. So clear-mindedness we start with, and then we put a dreamer in there, which is the freedom of a child to think and be creative and be wild in their thoughts, and that to be okay. And strange things to come to them and they not know where to put them. But instead of saying that doesn't fit here, we've got this college of new thought, which is mind saying, we've got room for you, children. We've got lots of room for you. Because the adults are now able to comprehend their capacity and their mind and their unbelievable scope. So children are actually going to come in with greater thinking than adults, no doubt. But if the adults have the space for their thinking to fit into, then we're going to have an even more magnificent reality to be part of. So, I've probably got a lot more to say, but I thought I might pause for a moment for any questions, and then we'll continue.
I can't see any questions, but you have a lot of message saying thank you, especially for the video. And the tools for the children as well, the meditation tools.
Okay, that's fine. It's nice to make sure in between. So I wanted any feedback form will be given. Thank you. Or certificate. Thank you. What I will speak about now is more depth on how we can really work with children in the future of education. And I believe that this doesn't just have to happen in alternative processes. So I want to call it normal, but let's just say mainstream education. There is room in all education to open doorways. Yes, go on.
Sorry, I missed the question. They ask, do children enter easily in the process and succeed to deposit their troubles or pain at the entrance of your course? And I don't know if it's clear. I can say it again.
Yeah, just a little slower with the accent.
Do children enter easily in the process and succeed to deposit their troubles or pain at the entrance of your course?
Okay, so do children enter easily into it, and do they process through pain? Is kind of how I'm understanding that question. When we start the process, there's always some children who are naturally not able to settle. And the aim is that children with different hyperactivities, so more active children, children that have never been still and never been taught the value of being still. So within the first week, there's always this disjoint. And my work in Clear Minded for Life is to help them find the value in the stillness or the quietness. So in a group of 30 children, what would happen is once 3/4 of the class is present and listening to a sound or breathing quietly, and only for a minute or two, those other busy children, it's the level of that energy starts to merge with the rest of the group, and they get to feel a glimpse, let's put it that way, a moment where they were calm, and then they turn back on again. So what I teach those children, they're young and they have a lot of energy and they can't sit still, is what I do is I get them to squeeze all their muscles. So we teach them a couple of techniques where we hold everything really tight, sometimes from frustration. If you're frustrated with something in the classroom, it's too noisy, you're annoyed, and I just say, hold everything really tight. So you think it's creating tension in the body, activating all the muscles of the body. So the child that's overactive and can't seem to sit still, we hold it all really tight, and then we breathe out like a balloon losing the air. So we breathe out like, and I say, let it go. So whether that's anger, fear, emotional distress, or just plain too much energy and don't know what to do with it, it works. So they then have a skill that they can use anywhere. And much of the aim is that they've got skills that don't look weird, because they're in classrooms and playgrounds and they don't want to look strange. They want to just get on. So I say, you can do this sitting at your desk. Just squeeze your hands really hard, pull your tummy in, tighten all your muscles. Nobody needs to know. And then take a long out breath. Let go of your hands, let go of the muscles, and feel that relaxation. And then just do 3 slow breaths. So the child can relax and self-soothe, if you say that, within the busyness of a classroom, within the frustration of an overactive schedule, as it is in our education and many other countries. Too much information, not enough space, and not information that they necessarily want to learn. So that's the model of education we're working over and giving them some skills to help. With regards to pain, emotional pain or physical pain, there's a few things. I often just have a lot of breathing with one hand on their chest and one on their tummy, so that they've got that contact with their body, and they're taking 10 slow breaths, feeling the movement of air in their body, so that they can again get the stillness within themselves and feel that calmness. And if a child is uncomfortable with their physical body and the connection with their breath, it brings that back to them, because the whole of Clear Minded for Life is created in a safe environment where they're not being reprimanded or ostracized. So they're held in a state of love. And so when they can feel that breathing, it starts to release some of that tension that's inside. There's no quick fix to trauma. We know that. But there are techniques that make movement around this. And breath work is one of the main areas that offers that release of the parasympathetic nervous system and the offering of the calm pathways through the brain, the oxygenation of the brain, which gives it that sense that I'm going to be all right. And creating safety in children. I've done many different sessions where if they're anxious as a cohort, I'll adjust the session so that we deal with things like feeling overwhelmed or feeling frightened. So when the COVID virus became predominant and school was still running, the children's anxiety was very high and the fear was very high. So we do a lot of work feeling safe, feeling that they had their own sense of calm around them, and a lot of touching in on that they are okay, and that it was okay to know that their parents were nervous and worried, but that they were okay. So things that we gave to them were in the moment of what was happening. I think that in the transition of time, what I've noticed is that prior to all of these changes in the world, children's schedules were so much busier, and their level of hyperactivity in their brain and that feeling that everything was happening. In Australian culture, particularly in the city areas, it's go to school, do a lot of activities after school to fill in a lot of space and keep stimulating, whether it's music or dance or athletics or swimming, and it's do, and then the parent is driving everywhere and having to manage this. So parents were overstressed, children were overstressed, and I would say to these children, do you ever feel like this is your life? And they're like, oh my goodness, like it's always buzzing around. So we would do shrug breaths to do in the car. So you'd get in the car when mum was rushing out the door and you'd take a big breath in, bring your shoulders up, and then breathe out with a sigh, and just releasing some of that tension that is in the environment for the child. Getting them to feel self-empowered, irrespective of the environment around them. Giving them an ability to overcome the outside world and to tune to the inside world in any moment. Clear-minded for life's not taught in a quiet place. It's taught in a noisy school. And there's school bells and announcements and interruptions. So it's taught in life circumstances. And to me, if somebody can meditate or be calm and still in noise, and a child can learn that they can do 3 slow breaths in a crazy classroom, then they've got something that they can take forward and bring into life if it retains that level of hectic, depends on their reality. The pause breath is one of the ones I find boys who can't settle and can't concentrate, when they do this, they love it. I marvel at how different they are, that something in the analogical nature of it, or the analytical state, that it's almost mathematical, perhaps, that they just understand that pause. And they can hold their presence there. So I'm talking children on the spectrum, if you want to label that, children who are the naughty ones in the classroom that never can sit still. They love this. That works for them. The other breathing, deep breaths in, deep breaths out, or this sort of thing, it doesn't appeal to them. But this does. So there's something in that space that gives such stillness to the mind, and so effortlessly. I hope that long answer is useful.
Yes, thank you so much. Thierry says, thanks, Vicki. That's very clear and precise. There is another question now. It's a very broad question. She asked, what do children need to develop their creativity?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. And I'm probably not the only person qualified to answer this in this summit. I'm sure there's many people who will answer that question wonderfully. In my experience, to stimulate creativity, the first thing is to give permission. And it's an odd thing to say. Perhaps it's cultural in the schools that I am in Australia, so we can put that as a variable. But creativity and free expression in the mind has to be given in a way where the child and or person doesn't feel that they have to conform, because conformity will cease creativity in a moment, because creativity is linked to the infinite dreamer, which has no rules. So getting children to draw without having boundaries is one of the things I've done in workshops. And you know, it's so difficult for some children to to stop making things the way they think that they were told them they had to be. So freeing the child up to get them to draw a picture without rules is difficult, not impossible. But I reinforce there's no rules. You can do anything you want. And the more you say that, the more they relax. They're like, really? And they relax a bit. I'm like, there's no rules in this class. You can do what you want. Anything is possible right now. And then slowly, it's quick with some children, that's natural, but slowly they crack out of that conformed state and they sigh and it comes out of them. So we would maybe term it automatic writing or automatic, just close your eyes and draw a picture. But the children, it's really wonderful when they get into that space and they feel safe to express. So if I was to say what is the best way to bring creativity forward, it's to create that sense of safety that you can't do it wrong. You're not going to get any kind of harm, if we want to use that term. Nothing's going to hurt you or blame you or make this incorrect. It's the correctness that ceases the creativity. And then, of course, the other thing is nature and taking the child into nature and getting them to touch nature, feel nature, see the creativity in nature, see the diversity in the different plants, the different creatures, and then that stimulates the memory of all the different ways to express. And that memory is natural in us, nature, natural. So reminding the person, reminding the child that nature is their friend and they are part of nature means then that their creativity can blossom as well. So that's two ways that I would draw creativity out. Sometimes I'll do the dreaming process with the children and then ask them to do a drawing response to that if I have a longer workshop in place. And again, reminding the child, just reminding them, it's all right to draw what you felt. It's all right to draw something that doesn't make sense. It's all right to draw something that you don't know how to explain. How can we have new thinkers on this planet if everything they do has to be explained to an adult, but the adult can't understand it because the child's picking up something that's far beyond what's here right now? They're our new innovators of the future. They're meant to think things we don't know. That's their job, to be the future. And we just have to open the door for it. Again, I hope I answered that question. Anything else coming up?
Thank you very much. And there is again a question about the school in Bolivia. So I'll try to translate as much as I can. She says, if it's a space for freedom, are there any rules? And if so, how do you create the rules? Do you co-create the rules with the kids, I suppose? And what is the process for decision making? Something.
Yeah, it's great questions. So in the school, the rules will be developed consciously, let's put it that way. So working with children to understand the importance of safety, of course, in that environment, and being connected with nature will help them to determine that they actually have the innate knowingness of how to operate. Rules are mostly in place so that we're safe. But if we trust ourselves, and if we're taught to trust ourselves, and we're given the gift of our intuitive wisdom and the connection with nature, then we have an innate ability to move within our environment. If we have a child coming from another environment into that one who doesn't have that skill, the first thing would be to offer that connection back to them. So we'd have some boundary in place that's predetermined for these children to come and recognize that they're in a safe place, but that there are some rules around that we've developed with the children, but they're actually the ones saying, well, this is what we need to do to make sure that we are all safe in this space, that we know where the edge of the cliff is, or the water's not safe, or the creature is not a good idea to touch. In Australia, we have plenty of not so nice insects and snakes and spiders, and when we walk in the bush, children are taught that at a young age to recognize the safety if the parent's not going to be overzealous, and teaching them that nature is not to be feared, but it's to be respected, comes back to Indigenous wisdom as well. So in that school at Choiba, the Indigenous teachers, the Indigenous elders will be part of that. So they will bring their custodianship in and their wisdom in of how life works together. When we respect it, it respects us, and the boundaries that would create. It's about understanding it in here. So the decision-making part, or what's being taught, is going to be, of course, foundational around teaching children some of the elements in the school of New Thought, which is the brain, how it works, why it's built that way, how the neural pathways are connected, and then what our DNA is doing, how our quantum reality works. So if you create that as the foundation of learning, then the child has a platform of wisdom and a connection to nature and a free expression that they then can go and discover via their own choices. What is their stimulus for bringing new thinking through? So are they interested in architecture, or are they interested in creativity, or are they interested in, I don't know, pottery, whatever it might be? So there's room for many different avenues to be explored. Mathematics and the joy of mathematics. I just want to digress for a moment on mathematics. When I teach in the classroom, what I notice is that mathematics is it's a subject that children don't like. For the most part, it has a resistance to it, particularly young girls. There's a resistance to mathematics, and I'm being a little bit general in this, but it's through years of being exposed to the classrooms and these children. Remember, I'm with them 15 minutes every week for 6 weeks, every class in every school, and so there's a lot of information that I'm being exposed to, not in the classroom though, not in with the teacher. Now, what I find is they come out of a mathematics lesson and then they come in and they sit with me for 15 minutes. And what I do is I teach them to imagine a number. What's your favorite number? So we go into stillness. What's your favorite number? And then they close their eyes and they focus on their favorite number through that concentration. And what happens then is the fear of mathematics, which is the fear of geometry, which is the fear of the structure of reality, starts to dissipate because you've attached favorite to the number and no longer is number scary. Mathematics is accuracy, and inaccuracy is fear because it means I could get it wrong, and wrong means bad, and bad means other things in our society, the society I'm working from. So taking fear out of mathematics and saying there's a favorite number, what is it? We bring it right back to the source of the being that understands that actually I am connected to this geometry of the universe that I'm part of, the magnificence of the way life is structured so brilliantly and accurately. And then they don't have to have that resistance. We also do visualization or practice around I've always been a genius, or I've always been magnificent at mathematics. So I get them to focus on these concepts to break some of those boundaries that have been perhaps programmed into the reality. So there's many tools and techniques that have been applied across these 10 years, and a lot of them come to me intuitively in the moment. I just read the room, I hear the sound of the children, I feel whether they're through the roof, I call it, or whether they're feeling calm that day, just depends, and I work with what's in front of me. That's the value of being physically present. When we lose some of that physical connection, we just have to learn how to work it differently on the computer screen. Anything else that is a question?
Yes, so Natalie, well, the one who asks a question about the school in Bolivia, she asked if, well, what she understood is that your work is based on the trust in instinct and natural abilities of children. Is that right?
Yes, very much so. And teaching that, reinstating that. So it's innate in all of us. It just gets worn down through the structures and the current systems of education don't seem to offer that innate connection and intuitive wisdom to be restored. So giving that back to people, or teaching children that it's actually okay to trust themselves and that they do know best and that they have wisdom within them and that they should understand that wisdom is like winding the clock back, because at birth that's innate and then it starts to erode depending on circumstances. So we're giving them permission to trust themselves over and over and over, and that's through simple things like these breathing techniques, because it says what's your thought and your thoughts of value and what's the first thing that you're thinking of, and that's a value. So their intuitive mind is in action, partially because of the presence that's being held. I'm holding that space in my consciousness or in my field of energy, saying it's all right for you to be free in your thinking right now. So they get to trust their dreams, trust their ideas, and understand that their thinking might not make sense right now, but it could be the next invention in the future, and not to let go of it. So I just think, imagine how many children right now have the future technology all in their mind. They have all of the solutions to the issues on the planet, whether that's environmental or social, political, or in medical whatever it is, health, healing, if they have all the solutions in their mind already, but there's nowhere to put that because it doesn't fit with what's here right now, and rather than shut it down because they don't understand what that picture is in their mind or it doesn't make sense right now, it's to say, treasure this. You've got this thought in your mind and you're loving it and you don't know why, and you're dreaming it and it keeps coming to you over and over. It's a gift. Treasure it. Hold it in your hands like it's the most precious thing you've ever thought, and love it so much. And you don't have to tell anyone about it. It's special just for you. And maybe one day you'll be that brilliant inventor or that brilliant musician that composes something that touches billions of people's lives. Or maybe you're just bringing a gift to life that's so precious. So it's this dream in here that they're holding, and it's saying, you keep hold of that. Don't turn it off, because we actually really need those dreams right now. We need them to stay alive, because that's where the future is. And our children have them. And that's why this summit is so powerfully important, because this group of speakers are the ones that are saying thank you to children and understand how important they are. And we're giving them the space to be those brilliant creators of our reality. And that's who we are in this summit. And I looked at all the speakers and all of their profiles when I was working with Abel this last year. And all I feel is what a glorious mentorship we're offering. Something else.